Howdy, folks. I'm Brian,
I'm Amber.
and here's some Reddit. So, our first story is titled, Am I a Jerk for Wanting to Make Peace with the Girl That I Got Pregnant? I'm a 43-year-old male, and I'm in a very uncomfortable situation. My ex-girlfriend Beth, a 45-year-old female, and I started out as very close friends. She had a boyfriend whom she considered the love of her life. Once they broke up their engagement, we began to hang out more and more, and it ended up with a romantic relationship that lasted for a year. We were in our 20s at the time. I got a job in a different town and began a relationship with an older woman. Things began to cool down with Beth. And when she called me to tell me that she was pregnant, she wanted to talk in person, and when she told me the news, I panicked and was in denial. One of our friends in common said the baby could be fake or be someone else's and that I should get a paternity test. I never saw her until she was 3 months along. She agreed to a paternity test, and I'll admit that she was shocked. My family said I was irresponsible. She lost the baby in about 3 weeks later due to dengue and sent me all the hospital documents. It got nasty because we come from a small town and some people treated her badly. I know I was a jerk and that I should have been a better person back then. I began dating one of our friends and married her 1 year later when she got pregnant. I love my wife Rose, a 45-year-old female, and she has given me 3 lovely children, a 20-year-old male, a 19-year-old female, and a 17-year-old female. But her jealousy and insecurities have ruined our marriage. She holds a tremendous amount of resentment towards Beth because she got pregnant with my kid. Also, I have regrets because another girl in our friends group got pregnant, and the same friend to her boyfriend, the baby may not be his child. And yes, that sentence is as confusing for you as it is for me.
Yeah, that's the one line in this entire post where I was like, I'm still not entirely sure what OP is saying here and how it relates to our story.
I'm thinking he's saying potentially that it might be his kid.
That's what I thought at first. I wasn't sure it's either that or that this other friend tried telling this other person to get a pregnancy test too and they noped out of it or something. So yeah. I'm really not sure.
I work as an engineer at a construction company. I nearly lost my job due to COVID and have no real prospects that do not involve relocating. I've been comfortable in my job and my field is very competitive, so realistically, I have no prospects. I'm having a situation now, and it's that Beth just came in as a project manager for a JV. To make things more complicated, she owns the partnering company, and a merging is in the offering, from what I've heard, which is fragmented. I don't know if she did this on purpose, or this is a coincidence. I feel very out of place in my own job. Beth won't speak to me unless it's work-related. I think I may have made a mistake in approaching her. I said hi, and she didn't respond. I asked her if she was still mad at me, and she said I should know my place or something like that. I've been reduced to driving trucks and driving her and the managing staff around. I asked her if I was going to get fired, but no answer. My wife found out, and she's just beside herself. I approached Beth again last week and tried to apologize if I did anything that offended her. She told me to be less impertinent and more productive because my performance is dropping. I apologized again, and she said I'm insulting her and that I need to stop offending her with my constant need for conversation. After this, she just treats me like she doesn't know me. Am I the jerk for offering an apology after such a long time? Could I really be offending her? Well, also, this individual has a very interesting perspective on reality. It seems like he feels like her life revolves around him. And the thing is, I don't know if she did this on purpose or if it's just a coincidence. Look, guy, this is a coincidence. She doesn't care about you at all. And she doesn't want anything to do with you at all. She's probably just as upset and uncomfortable by the situation as you are. And she doesn't want to talk about it. And
right. It sounds like they're both from the same small community, and there's only so many jobs that are going to be there. So if you were in similar lines of work, or somehow tangentially related before, it's not surprising you'll end up crossing paths in some way.
Yeah. So, I would say just let things be as they are. Do your job and do it well, and don't worry about Beth, is kind of my point of view here.
My point of view is that OP is a huge, huge, colossal jerk.
Oh, I think he's a jerk here in this situation. Like, he's only apologizing now, clearly, because he cares about his job.
And his apology was like the most non-apology. Yeah. I'm sorry if I offended you. I know I abandoned you while you were miscarrying, and like, I was sleeping around with someone else, but like, I wanted a paternity test from you.
Yeah. Well, that's the part of this whole story that actually really kind of makes me wonder, because he says he began dating one of her. Oh, wait, no, that's not the line. I got a job in a different town and began a relationship with an older woman, and then things began to cool down with Beth.
Right. So it sounds like he may have just been seeing this other woman while he was still seeing Beth, and so if she wasn't aware of it, that's not cool.
Yeah, so if you were cheating on Beth with another woman while she was pregnant, and then on top of that, like, it doesn't sound like you provided her any kind of emotional support, or it doesn't sound like you tried to help her when you found out she was pregnant. You just kind of denied. You're like, oh, no, sorry, this isn't my kid. It must be someone else's. Which I think is a really bad way of handling this whole situation. And again, like, the whole paternity test thing too, it sounds like you two started off as close friends. And this isn't a good thing to do to a friend, period. And like, if you're really truly friends with this person, you really damaged the friendship. And on top of that, like, it would have been one thing if you two had kind of moved on from different places in the world. Like, oh yeah, our relationship didn't work out just because, like, I had to move or something like that. And that's understandable. But the way you kind of abandoned your friend, in their time of need, I think was especially hurtful, because, she probably didn't expect you to, turn on her like this and start accusing her and leaving her and telling her that she was on her own and all this kind of stuff. And then when she miscarried, it sounds like you just kind of basically abandoned her.
Yeah, exactly. So you didn't even offer a real apology. I wouldn't say you should try apologizing, because clearly you don't even have it in your heart to apologize. And it's always best to broach the subject with someone first. If you've hurt them really badly, be like, would you be open to an apology? Not try to like proffer an apology on them. Yeah. And it's like, you have to take my apology. I'm sorry I offended you. Like, that's like, again, not even an apology. You're not saying, I'm sorry I abandoned you when you were miscarrying. You're not showing any remorse or empathy. You're just like, I'm sorry if I may have done something that offended you.
Well, just a phraseology on this. To apologize if I did anything that offended her. And it's like, that's such a, like you're saying, a non-apology. It's
right,
like you point out what you did wrong and you ask for forgiveness,
Yeah. Like, offended you makes it sound like, oops, I accidentally dropped the F-bomb on company time or something.
Yeah.
Like, this goes way beyond an offense.
Times for apologies were years ago. It doesn't really feel like an apology when, one, you don't really apologize, and two, when it's because your line of work is on the line, So she probably just doesn't even want anything to do with him.
Yeah, exactly. So the best thing OKB can do is just keep his head down and avoid her as much as possible.
Yeah.
Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling the teacher to stop making comments on my wheelchair? I'm an 18-year-old female, and I have a pretty messed up pair of legs, have had them since birth. I can walk, but I am an ambulatory wheelchair user. I'm currently due for an upgrade for my chair. I've had it for close to 7 years, and it's a bit messed up. It's gotten pretty uncomfortable, and it makes noise, but like I said, I've had it 7 years, and I've grown rather attached to it. We're saving to pay for the new one at the moment. I have one teacher, my English teacher, who constantly makes comments about how banged up looking it is, and gets pretty upset anytime I dare move and it makes a noise. She says it's distracting. The comments about the appearance of the chair annoy me a lot because it's hardly going to look brand new after 7 years of constant use. She made a comment this morning along the lines of, you should really get a new one. That one looks like it's about to collapse under you. I got really mad about this and I said, you know what? If you think I should get a new chair so bad, you can pay the nearly $4,000 it's going to cost, or you can stop making nasty comments about something that literally doesn't affect you. She didn't really look at me until the end of class, but the boy who sits beside me said it was slightly jerkish, as she probably didn't realize how difficult the process was. Am I the jerk?
Well, you know what I say here. It doesn't matter if she knew or didn't know about how difficult the process is. Like, the fact is that she made a rude comment.
Yeah, exactly. And just, being disabled can be really expensive. Like, a lot of mobility aids and all those sort of things are not covered by insurance. It sounds like OP's family probably is paying the $4,000 out of pocket, so they gotta save up. So it's a really unfortunate state here in the U.S. that being disabled is as expensive as it is.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if this is the U.S. It could very well be somewhere else, but it's probably the U.S.
Right. I'm making it. We don't know for sure it's the U.S., but it's common in the U.S. for a lot of stuff not to be covered by insurance. It's kind of essential for quality of life.
Yeah, and I think the teacher probably... One, OP's life is hard enough as it is without being harassed by a teacher. And two, the teacher probably felt uncomfortable, at the realization that maybe these things don't grow on trees.
Right. She's being ableist in classes there because, making the assumption that someone can just get a new wheelchair like it's nothing is, a pretty big assumption to make.
Yeah. Oh, what a helpful suggestion. Thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty aware that after using this wheelchair for 7 years that maybe, just maybe, I should get a new one. Because, it does look like it's about to collapse in on me. But the insurance won't cover it. Or we don't have insurance. Or any of those kinds of things.
Right. And it's not like she sounds like she was genuinely concerned for OP's safety.
Yeah, if it had been out of a genuine place of concern where the teacher was like, hey, the wheel on your wheelchair looks like it's actually about to fall off, you probably should get that taken a look at. That would be one thing.
But no, she just constantly harasses OP for it sounds like she does this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, you need a new wheelchair. It's like, I think OP would have gotten the message after the first time.
Yeah, I think the teacher has a problem with it squeaking.
Yeah.
And that's probably an annoyance. It's probably a nuisance to hear that squeak. And if they're especially sensitive to sounds and noises, then it just might bother them and interrupt their kind of train of thought during, teaching. But OP's life is exponentially more difficult than the teacher who has to listen to the squeaking of a wheelchair for a 60-minute period or however long the class is.
Right, OP has to get around in this. And if it's squeaky, I don't know, maybe the teacher could get WD-40. I don't know if you can use that on a wheelchair, but if it's metal on metal, you probably can.
Yeah, I would imagine WD-40 or something like that would take care of the squeak pretty well. So, OP, maybe a can of WD-40 might help take care of some of the squeaking, but not that you have to.
No, and you're certainly not a jerk for wanting your teacher to stop harassing you about the state of your wheelchair. It's like OP said, it doesn't affect the teacher.
No.
It's her life, OP's life, not the teacher's. That's,
exactly.
Affected by this.
All right. Moving on. Our final letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Revealing Our Net Worth When My Wife Constantly Says We Are Broke and Making Me Look Bad with Money? I'm a 31-year-old male and I've been with my wife, a 30-year-old female, for 10 years now, and she has always had this habit of making me look bad with our finances. Whenever anything regarding spending comes up, she will always say how broke we are and say we don't have the money to do this or that. The thing is that we're doing well financially. We have decent jobs and our combined salary is roughly $125,000 a year. As of today, our net worth is more than $1 million, but less than $2 million. I have saved and invested a lot before getting married, so I gave us a good head start. I control the finances and take the lead, but we both agreed to living a very modest life. We both have our cars from college, for example, a Honda and a Toyota. She knows everything about our finances because at least once a month I go over them with her, and every time I deposit in our investment accounts or our kids' college fund. For banking, we have an emergency fund, and I budget everything else to go straight into investments. We basically stay right at $10,000 in our bank savings and about $5,000 in our checking account after bills. Edit, most of the time there is more than $500 in our checking, but once I pay for our credit card each month, I then move anything extra. We always use the credit card, so it's not like we only have $500 to spend. Our credit card limit is $25,000. A few months ago, we had dinner with her friends, and they were talking about buying a new car. My wife said something like, "I wish I could get a new car, but I'm always broke after paying the bills. We still have our college cars." Edit, my wife does not want a new car. She will go on to talk about, if she had the money, what she would want to buy, and it always makes me feel ashamed. This I'm broke story has been happening for years. When we were driving home, I asked her about it. She understood we have money, but it's how she feels because her bank account is always low. I said I can increase our budget or keep more money in our bank if she wants. Since we are doing well, I'm okay with spending more. She said no again and that she was happy with her finances. I explained that when she says we are broke, it makes me look bad and I feel ashamed. It's as though I can't provide for the family and or I'm bad with money, and she doesn't see it that way. The same conversation has come up numerous times about us being broke. Recently, I reminded her of our numerous talks about how it makes me feel and look bad in front of our friends and family. I told her that if she keeps saying stuff like that, I will reveal that we are doing well with money. I gave her a few reminders that I'd eventually do this, but she kept going with the broke story. At dinner with her sister and parents, the same broke story came up. I piped in and said, "It's weird to hear a millionaire say they are broke." My wife said, "Haha, I'm not though." And I quickly say, "We are millionaires, you do know that. We go over our finances every month." Well, I am broke, story stopped after that, and the night went on as usual. A little later, the same thing happened with her friends, and I used the same line. Now my wife is mad at me for using that line and revealing roughly how much money we have. She said it seems like I'm gloating. I say it's better than making me look like I'm running us into the ground financially. So, am I the jerk for revealing our net worth when my wife says we are broke? So, what do you think about this one?
I kind of think they both suck a little bit.
Yeah, that's actually where I fall on this one. I really think that they don't do a very good job of supporting each other. Like, she knows that this topic makes him uncomfortable, and instead of just staying silent and not saying anything, she goes on and says, "Oh, we're poor." And he, I think, is being overly sensitive about being poor, being judged by people about not being good with finances.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is, like, she doesn't have to comment. Like, when her parents talk about getting a new car, there's no reason for her to interject and be like, "Oh, I want a new car, but I'm so broke."
Yeah.
Especially if she doesn't even really want a car.
Yeah.
But it sounds like she has a complicated relationship with their finances.
Yeah.
And if he brought most of that money in before they were married, then she may not really feel like it's hers.
Yeah, I think that's probably, it all really depends on like how she feels about that finances. Like they say that their combined income is $125,000, but say he's earning $100,000 and she's earning, $20,000, and she may not feel like she's actually entitled to, the $1 million that they have. Especially if, like, before the marriage, he put aside, like, $500,000 or something like that. This may just make her feel really uncomfortable to claim that money. But, what were you going to say?
I was going to add on to that. And if her financial situation has always been, like, the only money she's really seeing is what's sitting in her checking account, like, $500 isn't a ton of money to have sitting in your checking account. And, like, if you have money in investments can always go south. So It may not be like, I don't know how secure his investments are or anything. Yeah. So it may not feel like they really have that money to work with.
Well, and not to mention, like, she doesn't really have access to that money, it sounds like. So she gets the $500 a month that she gets, for her personal expenses, it sounds like. But after that, it's, reset on a monthly basis. And so she may just feel like she doesn't have access to that kind of money. And I think that with her saying, oh, but I'm poor, it really reveals her relationship with their finances.
Yeah, well, it is hard when your partner is bringing in like all the money in the household or a lot of it to feel like you have any claim to it. So if there is a big financial inequality in their relationship in terms of who either had more assets going into a marriage, which it sounds like he had a lot of assets going in,
Mm-hmm.
or who's making more now, like it may be a legitimate, like she feels like I'm not really contributing anything, so I don't have access to this.
Yeah, well, my one question for OP is this. If she were to tomorrow be like, hey, I want a new car, let's buy a new car, would OP be willing to front that money? If the answer is yes, then she indeed, I think, could, make the claim that, we have millions of dollars. If he's like, well, our cars are just fine, do we really need new vehicles? Then, again, that might make her feel like she has no say or any kind of input as to what their financial situation is.
Yeah. So I definitely think there's like not enough information in this post about what their actual relations are to money to really say a lot. Because I have to extrapolate a lot to even say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think they both are approaching this in an unhealthy way. It's not cool for her to keep saying that they are broke when she knows that it makes him feel insecure and like he's not providing for the family.
Yeah.
But it's also not cool for him to kind of dismiss her feelings because it sounds like she legitimately feels like she's broke.
Yeah. My one suggestion here is they should probably start doing the finances just slightly different. Like maybe instead of, taking the excess money away each month, it's just an accumulation type thing. She gets her own bank account where she gets to have money saved aside. That way she actually feels like she has real money to spend. That way it's not making her feel like she doesn't have any, claim to the finances.
Yeah, because it sounds like all the money is going to accounts that aren't supposed to be touched for a very long time. And that's hard. If you want to, feel like you've got money to have fun and do things every now and again, and all the money is locked away into a future account, that is kind of a tough situation.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we have the money, but do we have the money? All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much to Amber for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, do you have any fun stories from today?
Fun stories from today?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just was working on exam stuff today. I had my TAs take the exam for me.
Yeah.
So they could test it out, see if it's too hard. I think it's going to be good for the students, so.
Yeah.
I can't remember what else I did today. I mean, really, I've just been exam stuff.
Yeah. I saw one of our crow friends today. I don't know, we haven't seen our crow friends for a little while, and so it's been a little frustrating because we were trying to, feed them, and they were visiting us, on a daily basis there for a little while, but for, the last week, would you say? Maybe 2 weeks. We just haven't seen a sign of them. So, and I don't think this was one of our, I don't think this was Midnight or Shadow that I saw today. So, yeah. So that's my excitement. I saw a bird. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you like this video, consider giving me a like. If you dislike this video, consider giving me a dislike. Amber gives a little frowny face. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.